So let me ask you this, because I have to ask you this, Delia, because I know people are
Ask
wondering
it
this,
all.
and they're gonna want me to ask you. At
Okay.
what point, and I understand you were young, because I
hmm
know there's tons of women that do the same thing that you were doing in terms of supporting this man, or you carrying the load. At what point did you realize this dude wasn't
hmm
sure? But at
I
what point
got
did
you.
you realize that your first child's father wasn't like that guy? Like, what was the issue that caused you guys to break up? That you felt like I don't want to be with this
You
dude.
want to
I
ask
don't want to be
that?
with this dude no more. I don't want to be with this dude no more. Yeah. What was it that made you say I don't want to be with this dude?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you why I'm laughing so hard because the reason why I didn't want to be with him then is the same reason that I wouldn't be with him now. So it was because I was carrying him. So we were
Okay.
together. He would work, I would work. But when he would fall off and I would fall off, there would never be any pickup. Now, mind you, when I got with him, he already had a child. His first child he had when he was 15. We are now I'm 33, he's 34. He is now 7 sons in and still doesn't work. So I want to feel bad, but why would I feel bad when he's not doing any better now than he was when I left him alone? And just to be quite frank, since we're being honest, something that hurts my feelings is he did the things that he did, and then he went a step further because honestly, I just feel like they do things to hurt me. And just like how men do not like when bitter baby mamas use their children as pawns, I don't
Yeah.
think that men understand that there are men that do that as well. And so my son's father went and decided to get my son vaccinated, and he didn't get vaccinated and I'm not vaccinated.
Yeah.
That's a rough decision. And then when I asked him why, he said, let's be honest, you're not around. Why would I ask you? What? I'm not around, but you don't allow me to be around. He doesn't answer the phone when I call and reach out, just little small petty things that people do. So it's unfortunate because, as a parent and wanting to be this strong vessel in your child's life, it is not easy to co-parent if you're only able to but they're not a parent. And I'm dealing with that with my oldest son's father. So it's just a really unfortunate frustration because my oldest son is over there primarily, like 100%. It's almost like I'm the baby daddy. I get him some weekends when he feels comfortable enough to release him. It's not
Gotcha.
every weekend, things like that. And that actually is not bettering for the life of my oldest son. And then also for my youngest son, they have no relationship at all because he doesn't come around as often. And my
Mm.
youngest son adores his brother, because little kids, they love the big brother. But I feel like my oldest son is burned out on being a sibling. He's the second of seven. He's tired of being a big brother. So
Right.
it's a whole lot of rough emotions. And then, of course, I don't think enough people understand in parenting, when you are the disciplinary parent and the other parent is more of the vacation parent, the kid ain't trying to be around the disciplinary. So my son is literally living in a vacation. So he ain't trying to come over here and hear these rules, but I'm trying to structure him so he can be the best version of himself
Right.
versus living in the comfort of what he's doing. So it's just an unfortunate thing because I can't reprogram my child in the little 48 hours that I may get them, when I
Hmm.
may get them, if I may get them. And then I also can't cater to the reality that he's being programmed to believe that the only time he's loved is when we're going to main event. That's not a good thing either. So it's just rough. So all I can do is continue to be strong for the one that I do have here with me.
So let me ask you this, because I have to ask you this, Delia, because I know people are
Ask
wondering
it
this,
all.
and they're gonna want me to ask you. At
Okay.
what point, and I understand you were young, because I
hmm
know there's tons of women that do the same thing that you were doing in terms of supporting this man, or you carrying the load. At what point did you realize this dude wasn't
hmm
shit? And I'm not saying that, I hope I will not going too far. But at
I
what point
got
did
you.
you realize that your first child's father wasn't like that guy, like he wasn't ish? Because that's a question that a lot of dudes want. They'll ask, they'll be like, okay, well, you had a child by this guy. At what point do you realize that you know he's not that dude? At what
Now,
point was
you
that
put
for you?
up, I think that people fail to realize, I think that when you're in a relationship and you say that you're going to forgive someone, you do forgive them. But I feel like the next time something happens, yeah, you may forgave it, but now a little piece of that has now came back. So as you keep with forgiveness, peace, you got this bridge that you've built of all these pieces of forgiveness. So when you get to that, like what the saying is, the straw that broke the camel's back. For me,
Right.
with him, it was okay. We done went through all of these trials and tribulations, cheating, mishaps, broke, homeless, living with family members, etc., up and down spirals, still loving each other, still making it. Then I have this child. Now, mind you, I told you he already had a child. So we got that child and then we got my child. Now, what you do with your child, fine. And I definitely feel like people need to understand this, because people that, when you have a child and then you have a child with someone, but they already have a child, that's a lot, because what
Yeah.
they're doing with their child and what you're going to do, what the other parent outside of y'all do with the child, all of that coincides very much. So people don't understand that. I should have been paying attention to how he was parenting that child before I kept spreading my legs to make my child. But I wasn't paying that. No, never mind. So, of course, when my child came, how dare I be upset at the lack of father he was when I was witnessing it firsthand. I was front row seating it, but because I was loving him, I missed the memo. So the final straw for me was after I had Jeremiah, we were good. I thought we were living with his aunt, and he was
Wow.
getting up every day.
Y'all were living
Oh
with
no,
his
no,
aunt?
I ain't even got there yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
You ain't heard nothing. We
Go
living with
ahead,
the
baby.
aunt
Go
that
ahead.
was with daddy, and we're over there living, and he's getting up for work every morning. I thought going to work. 2 weeks go by, and it's time to get the check. Well, no money, and I said, so what were you doing? He getting up every day, going over his homies and playing the game, acting like he worked. That did it for me.
I forgot what movie that was, but yeah, where a dude was doing something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, like you got to be the craziest person. And I feel like, because he's been carried all this time, like I met him at his dad's, and then he lived with me. When he broke up with me, instead of going and working on himself, he met another chick and another and another and another, and now he's back at his mom's. You know what I mean? I
You
feel
got to
like
keep the
because
party
no
going.
one's ever kicked him out and made him feel rock bottom so he can build up, he ain't ever built. Now where we are, 34, he's 7 kids, 6 baby mamas. I'm not one to talk, but I'm doing things out here. I've signed leases. Like, this is a grown man that's never signed his own lease. I don't feel no shame saying none of this. Like, I don't, because it's true. So, and I feel like some people can feel like maybe I'm bitter because I didn't have my parents, but there are just a lot of people on this earth that I feel like because they've had their parents, that's a crutch. They're sheltered and not so quick to go out here and get it like a lot of us will, because they like, I can just go back to my parents. But if you got some parents that ain't gonna let you come back, you gonna get out here and get it.
Right. You right. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right about that. So so we got that part on the first one. So you said your second child's father, you known him since childhood. So I don't think you
Yes.
said this, but from me watching your video, you said he looked at what the first child's father did, and he did the same thing. Is that correct? Like, because he
Yep.
was with
And
you when
sent
you
me
were
a
going
text
through
message
all that.
that said it. Yes,
Go
he was
ahead.
with
Say it
me
again.
he was with me through. So I met him towards the end of the relationship. He was like in a relationship with me when the first son's father took him. He was there for all of that. So when we
Gotcha.
got to our issue and our level, when he took him after the fact, because number one, when me and him first broke up, this was well before the taking thing. He made a page on Facebook and it was called Delia Has Herpes. He went and added everybody from high school. He added all my hair clients. He added everybody. He uploaded all the freaky pictures I sent to him while we was in a relationship, uploaded screenshots and text messages and everything. Like, so that's why I always say all these people get on here and try to drag me. Ain't none of y'all drag me the way these baby daddies have. Like, the shit y'all saying ain't nothing compared to being on the CDC's website listed as having herpes. I'm sorry. So anyway, he did that. But then when he took Carter, he sent me a text message and was like, don't act like you care. You didn't do nothing to Jay when Jay took Jeremiah. So like for him, it's the narcissism or whatever. That's what like I always say, Nick purposely took Carter because that was the only communication we were having. He used to do petty stuff. Like when I was pregnant with my youngest son's father, he wouldn't even pick Carter up and he'd feel away talking about, why don't you let that new nigga take care of him and all that. But then after I had D'Anthony, he picked him up and he kept him. And when he would get him for the weekends, he would text all weekend, you don't love your son because you ain't checking on him to see what he's doing. And then all week while I would have him, he text me, you don't love me and you don't care enough about me to make sure I'm seeing my son, like just mind games. So once I started ignoring that, he was like, forget it then, I'm gonna just take Carter. And I haven't seen my child since. And it's been, if he keeps him until June 6th, that'll be 3 full years that I haven't seen or talked to my son. Not once.
You haven't seen or this coming
And he's
June.
here.
You haven't seen or talked to your son in 3 years.
Not at all. I haven't seen. I didn't talk to him last Christmas. If I showed, I had him on TikTok. It was on. I had a little video on TikTok before I started my GoFundMe originally, because it was showing just how my son looks. Because how he looks has even changed. Nothing but smiles when he was with me. Every picture I've seen of him on the internet since he's been gone, not one smile, and I'm not exaggerating. That shows like his character just doesn't look as happy as it was, which is troubling to a mother. So I had a video saying like, I'm coming to get you, baby, like I am. His 6th birthday last year, it was just a picture of him on this like inflatable like slide, just holding up the number 6. But there weren't a bunch of kids there. It was just him and his brother, and that's it. And it just was like, wow, how disheartening. Like, you're willing to ruin, all of these great things that our child could enjoy for your bitterness. So that's why I understand when these dudes be saying what they say about these women, because as a woman, I've dealt with it. So when a lot of women love to be like, well, you a pick me and you only want to bash. No, I have been on both sides of this. So as a woman, the only way for us to really get it right is to talk to the women, like,
right.
Period. Even on stuff like this. Because even with my middle son's father, with all that he's doing, I can't call his mama because his mama's on his side. You as a mother should not feel what your son is doing is okay. But a lot of these mamas are cheerleaders, piece of shit ass sons. So how the son gonna feel like he wrong if even his mama's cheering him on?
So what was the straw with him? With the middle,
my middle son's father.
Yeah, what was the straw with him? What was the final thing?
Physical abuse, verbal abuse, exportes, physical abuse, verbal abuse, gunplay.
What's exportes?
He was exporte is the new word for restraining order.
Okay, so you said this was for CDV?
Yeah, for the middle son. Yeah, because he's got PTSD and a lot of army issues, just lies. Basically, had I not had that childhood relationship with him and felt how I felt in my mind at that time, that would have never happened. So it's just one of them things. But I'm not about to sit and put the blame on him, because it was multiple red flags that had kind of came up in the beginning that I could have walked away from. But me lonely and wanting to be loved, that's why I say, like, you lonely, people will do anything to not feel lonely, but a lot of times it's detrimental to later. Like, and I just don't think people get that. Like, lonely eats at you in a way that you will literally deal with the worst of the worst just to not be alone. And I feel like when a person finally overcomes that, being alone is great, but you got to realize it. And I had to get there. It took years of appreciating my peace and years of understanding and all of that, from going through all of the stuff I went through. And I feel like my son's fathers were the exact same man 3 different times, 3 different age brackets, 3 different looks, but the same dude. I call it same script, different cast. So it was a lesson that I was not getting. And it took for me to finally have the last baby to be like, okay, now this has got to end. Right.
So it sounded like from what you, and before you even said that, that's what I was thinking, what you just said. It sounded like you kept meeting, or as some people would say, you're attracting the same kind of guy into your life until you learned it. So
it's God's beat maker.
And I don't know, I will put the light in the sky for the G's that done turn memory from go. Blessings we send to the ghetto youth them.